And then we get to Chris Bowen, the bloke who would love to have been the leader at this election, but similar to Kamala Harris, didn't even have the votes to get to the party election. He pulled out because it was all a sewn-up deal once Anthony Albanese was standing up for women and pushed Tanya Plibersek out of the way to become the leader. Well, this bloke, of course, also was an immigration minister, one who let in thousands of people into the country because they got here illegally by boat. Somebody who didn't believe in offshore processing, didn't believe in temporary protection visas, and didn't believe in turning things around. He then became a small business minister for about 5 minutes. He then became the shadow treasurer for Bill Shorten and came up with $387 billion worth of new taxes that apparently he doesn't believe in anymore. And remember what he said at the last election. If you don't like our policies, don't vote for us. Well, guess what? Australia didn't. And thankfully, we were saved him being in charge of the economy. So Labor decided to move this great heavyweight of policy and politics to the climate change portfolio, where they have come up with apparently a plan for 600,000 new jobs and a $250 power bill cut, maybe, by 2025. But in his first press conference explaining it, Greg Brown from the Australian newspaper, using the views of a legend of Labor, blew that plan completely away.
Mr Bowen, former ACTU President and Labor MP Jenny George says she thinks the predicted jobs growth under the modelling for your plan is quite unbelievable, given that just 64,000 of those jobs will be directly created from your policies. Now, looking at the modelling, it predicts that more than half of all jobs created, 306,000, will be through, and I quote, economic development induced via low power prices.
So the reality is that 60,000 of those jobs might exist between now and 2030, building the infrastructure for renewable energy. The rest of it might happen as a result of power price cuts. But think about how much you pay a worker every week, let alone month, let alone year, and you'd want to be saving more than $250 a year. You see, even on the most basic of wages, those numbers don't add up. And even on the assumption that all of this is going to go well, he turned up today and proved to be just the same shocker he was 3 years ago. Because when
I'm right, and if coal's going to continue to set the wholesale price of power, which sets the retail price of power, then the price of power is going to continue to rise, not just in the short term, but in the long run.
Well, Chris, of course, wholesale power prices are up significantly.
Am I wrong about that?
The modelling is right, Chris. The modelling is correct, which shows power prices coming down as a result of our policy. With all due respect to you, and I have a lot of respect for you, you're not an economic modeller.
But he can smell bullshit. And the promise of lower power prices, which is the whole way they get to make the lies of 600,000 jobs, won't happen. Because the price of coal keeps increasing as, guess what? The rest of the world wants to buy it. The wholesale price goes up, which means the retail price goes up. If the retail price goes up, then your power bills go up. Conversely, if you just got rid of coal tomorrow, your power bills would go up by almost $500 a year because the electricity companies would need to pay off all the wind farms and solar panels that they are importing from, let's all say it together, China between now and 2030. He's also the great genius who came up with the idea of $20 billion to try to rebuild power infrastructure that really costs $1 trillion. But he wasn't finished stuffing up. Local Labor MPs in the Hunter Valley have been lying to people that a special carbon tax that will be put in place on the biggest emitters in the country won't apply to coal mines. There are a few of those in the Hunter Valley. But when asked about it today, Chris Bowen says, no, they'll pay the new carbon tax.
So yes, we will require the 215 emitters to reduce their emissions to net zero by 2050. So does that is what the Business Council has asked to happen.
Does it include coal mines?
Yes.
Seriously, This bloke was the problem in 2019. He is the problem in 2022. Pay attention. The media will pretend none of this is happening, but you can see it. When this video appears on the internet, share it. Because if you thought Albo was bad, the people behind him are in career worst form, sending their homework to China, bullying their colleagues, making billion-dollar mistakes when it comes to the budget, not promising to put a cap on the amount of taxes that are coming forward, and promising to introduce a carbon tax on the biggest polluters, of which you, the customer, will pay.